And we're live. What's the deal? This is Drew with Addict Pickleball. We got Dan with Engage. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Dan and I met, I believe, maybe 3 tournaments ago. We're here at Pictona. Probably, was it for the Conviva? The first time we met?
Probably the Pictona Open. Maybe the Bainbridge Cup.
Okay.
Recently, the Conviva has taken over sponsorship, so that's a relatively new thing.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, thanks for coming on. First, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from.
I'm Dan Werner. I've been with Engage for probably 4.5 years, part-time. I have 3 days a week where I work, and the rest of the time I play.
Yeah, I love that. And what do you do for Engage?
I'm a store clerk.
Okay.
I've had my ownership and all that stuff, different businesses. I often say I have had many lifetimes in this lifetime.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But just now I just go in, I teach in the store. There's a lot of fundamental information that most people have no idea about. I don't mean this in a personal sense, but the information I have can prevent or stop tennis elbow, the fundamentals of all of the fundamentals. That's what I do in there, and trying to help people get a good beginning.
I love that.
Yeah, and then also I have enough information so that I can guide them into what weight they should be playing, what kind of paddle they should be playing within our group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, and you mentioned something interesting here. What is the number one tip? I feel like, what is the number one issue you see along the lines of tennis elbow within pickleball injury-wise, and the best prevention method that you found?
The worst thing that I see, the most often that I see it, is a bad grip.
A bad grip. Can you
Right.
elaborate?
And I'm not talking about the fingers. I mean, most of us
Not
play,
positioning
it's in the wrist.
in the wrist.
Yeah, the most of us know continental grip, but that's just in the fingers.
Okay.
What I see is a flat wrist on the top, which gets to be very wristy. In other words, the wrist is moving, and then because of that backhand stroke in particular, tennis elbow comes out of that bad grip.
I see. And to fix that grip, what are you doing exactly? You said flat. What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, if you can imagine, and I use this a lot, I'll hold the paddle in front of them and say, it's no longer a paddle. It's a hammer with a heavy head. Grab it. Well, people grab a hammer and they don't have a flat wrist on the top.
They're holding it kind of cranked up like this.
Yeah, it's flat on the bottom. So if
And
you
that's
put,
when you have a lot of tension against your wrist.
well, what happens is that we don't have any muscles in the hand to speak of, okay? So all of the grip that we have is caused by flexor tendons. Those are strings or tendons that start at the elbow, and all these little, it's like a turkey leg. You ever,
Yep.
That's annoying to eat because of all those darn strings.
Absolutely.
That's what we have, and in our own way. So when you drop your wrist down so that it's flat on the top, you've lost your flexor tendons. Now it gets wristy. Now the muscles on the top of the forearm are having to do all the work. And then when you follow through, you snap through the elbow because of that snap of the wrist.
And that's what's causing.
Bingo. Inflammation
is.
of the ligaments and tendons on both sides of the joint, tennis elbow. So if you learn to pick up the wrist so that it's flat on the bottom, and like you're holding, another example, if I were to ask you to hit me in the chin, when you set up to hit, the fist is not lowered at all. Or
It's upright.
Yeah, it's upright.
It's upright.
Yeah, so that you don't break a knuckle or your wrist.
Correct.
So this is the common grip. Now, a lot of people are told, all you have to do is grip like it's a handshake. Now, you and I are facing each other. Put your fist up here like that. Now, let's shake hands. Do it in slow motion. Watch your wrist. See how we just lowered our wrist?
Correct, yeah.
That's the weakest position that we have. And everything else that we do, if we're doing work, we don't have the wrist lowered. We have it
Upright.
or full, straight on, if you will.
And that's how you should be holding it.
And that's how, yeah. Then you learn to swing from the shoulder so that the hinge of the arm, the total
one
arm,
carrying.
is from the shoulder. And then with the backhand, you don't have to go through anything past, you hit the ball stays on the paddle.
Trajectory.
The pros call it residence. The ball stays there. Once the ball is gone, you can pretty much stop the arm.
Absolutely.
Now
Instead of having to follow through all the way.
Exactly. Now with a forehand,
It's a tighter motion.
much tighter and much stronger. You know, when you're using the skeletal structure of your arm,
It's like a pendulum. You're like able
yeah,
to.
but see, now, folks, those of you listening, we're doing this arm stuff in front of each other, but you started with your elbow up here, and so you're still doing that
Snapping.
snap. If you hinge from the shoulder, the whole arm
From here.
stays solid.
And that's also gonna your consistency is gonna be. It's a way more consistent motion using your
Exactly.
shoulder versus however your motion is based off your
when it gets
position.
wristy or elbow leading,
You're gonna
good
have-
luck with perfection.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck with perfection, and you're gonna be prone to more injury.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. And I think
So
it's
that's number one.
yeah. And then I think it's very interesting because everybody's information when they start a new game or a new sport, especially coming from different backgrounds, a lot of the times we always skip the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like you've been playing months, maybe even years, and then one little piece of advice like
Exactly.
that can change your entire stroke.
And that's why I do this. I call it the most fundamental of all the fundamentals. If you get the grip right so that the whole wrist and the hand and the forearm are flat on the bottom, and then you learn to hinge from the shoulder, you have a great chance of doing very, very well because there's real strength there. I don't hit with my paddle. I hit with my arm. I hit with a skeletal
And as you guys see, there's a reason I've been avoiding Dan on the court.
yeah, right.
I've been avoiding Dan on the court. I don't want that ass whooping just yet. I've been drilling for the moment that Dan and I get on the court.
There you go. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Well, I'm 82. Shut up.
Wisdom over youth always.
Anyway.
Awesome. Okay. So how do you like working with Engage? How's your experience been overall? I know Engage is an incredible company.
Yes, it is.
They've been around for over 11 years.
Well, it started in 2015, so that's 8 years.
8 years.
And for the last 4 years, it's been the number one paddle manufacturer in the world.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Now, every week, according to Pickleball Central, anyway, that I've seen, every week it's number 1, 2, or 3. The top 3 are Engage, Paddle Tech up in Michigan, and Selker. Now, Engage and Paddle Tech are the only 2 companies
that manufacture in the U.S.
in the U.S. using nothing but U.S. parts. Selkirk,
love
of
that.
course. Yeah, they assemble their paddles. It's all from China.
Assemble their paddles in the U.S.
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, all paddle manufacturers in the last 2 years, say, have upped their game. Everybody's doing a better and better job.
Big time. In the last 2 years, and listen, I'm new to the game, but I've seen the transition of paddles from older paddles.
Sure.
The unibody, thermoforming, all these new things that are, it's tremendously increased the paddle.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we're lucky. The guy who owns this, 2 engineering degrees, his minors were physics and chemistry. He's upped the game like crazy. We have as far as I know, the only paddle that has a layered skin. Not the skin bonded to the core, but there's actually a layer in there.
Okay, can you dive into that? What do you mean exactly?
Well,
for the viewers who aren't so technical.
All right. It's almost axiomatic. A skin has to be bonded to the core.
Absolutely.
Right. Except in this case, now this is the true raw Touray
T700 from Japan.
Well, the source is from Japan. These are made here, but it's the same stuff, but it's a better quality.
So the carbon that you guys use, when you say the source from Japan, but it's made here, what do you mean exactly?
Well, Touray is the city.
Correct.
And so this particular style was created there.
Yeah, and there's a company called Touray.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is the raw Touray T700 carbon fiber manufactured here because all the parts are manufactured in the States.
Got it.
Okay. Now,
including the carbon.
Yes. So now what we have is the carbon fiber skin is attached to an application layer. And it's the application layer that's bonded to the skin or to the core.
Got it.
So now it's a layered skin. So what happens is that when you hit a ball with these paddles, the core of the paddle compresses and rebounds, just like a ball. But now you have the skin in between the two kind of grabbing the ball during its residence.
Giving it more dwell.
More control, more grip.
Control.
So the ball stays on the paddle longer,
yeah.
And
so
therefore you have more control over it.
Absolutely. You're able to shape the ball more. Be able to really control and
Exactly.
and take it where you want to.
Direction is better. It's just pretty fascinating. Now, a lot of the thicker paddles, for instance, and I don't mean to name drop, but virtually all of them, when they come out of China, they have no power. But so what? Power is a function of arm speed.
Absolutely.
So I started with a Selkirk. I loved it. I thought it was a great paddle. I learned things.
Which one did you start with, by the way?
One of the AMP series.
Okay.
And I don't remember the name. I got one for my wife, and 2 months later I could afford it. And I got one
that.
for me.
Awesome.
And I played it for 3 years. Then we moved from Daytona Beach Shores over to Ocala, and I bumped into Engage, and I tried one of their paddles, and I knew my other paddles would never see the light of day again.
I love that. That's awesome.
It was immediate. I knew instant. But that I don't mean to push Engage. You can tell I'm enthusiastic
About pickleball.
Yeah, and the background of Robert Elliott, 2 engineering degrees and physics and chemistry minor, and the quality of and all of that. It's wonderful. That's why I stay with him. I like the people and I like the paddles.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the whole sport has upgraded. So it's I don't mean to push. I do. You can tell I'm enthusiastic about Engage, but the sport itself is transcendent. It is just
absolutely
phenomenal.
But that's why it's important to have somebody like Robert that views a paddle and really dissects it, understands it,
Yes.
understand every component that comes together and how that function is created. That way you know what to change. That way you know what to experiment with, and that's how boundaries are pushed.
Exactly.
Because a lot of companies, I mean, majority manufactured through a few main companies in China, and a lot of people come in and they just want to find their slight niche, and it's really as a selling point.
Yeah.
But to really push innovation, it takes experimentation, and it takes really, really, really understanding how every one of these components comes together
And
what
he's
it does.
leading the way. That's all fine, but there's a lot of paddle manufacturers over there, and I'll go back to Selkirk. We had a designer for Selkirk show up at the store probably 3 years ago-ish, and he was kind of talking about it. And it turns out their $200 paddle cost them $7.80.
I knew it was cheap, but $7.80.
But let's qualify that. Nobody, no company does a better job of supporting the sport than Selkirk.
Okay, why is that?
Well,
Not that I'm disagreeing. Just for the people.
It's just Mark Renison and Third Shot Sports, Tyson McGuffin, and the other pros. They pay them. So that it's a marketing thing. But
for sure. But sponsorship.
They put a lot of money back into the sport. They're terrific that way. But the people that were playing Tyson, for instance, he could beat you with a frying pan.
Yeah. Have you seen that Ben John's video with the frying pan?
I've heard of it.
Isn't
that funny?
I've got to show you that video, and I'm going to actually put it up here on this video. It is an absolutely incredible video.
Yeah.
He is literally playing a doubles match with a frying pan.
Yeah.
And listen, paddles are incredible. Technology is important to use, but at the end of the day, when you see Ben John's, mechanics is everything. You see him whooping ass with a frying pan.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like a stainless, it's absolutely incredible. You see him resetting, you see him using that same exact form, not even trying to fully adjust to it and applying that, and it's awesome. He's got perfect resets with a fucking frying pan.
Jessie Irvin is one of the top ladies, and she happens to be sponsored by Engage, and we have her paddle covers. It's special.
Incredible player, by the way. If you don't know her, shout out Jessie Irvin.
She's way up there. And I got to see the PPA tournament recently, about 3 weeks ago here. Every time I saw her practice and then play, every shot, the sound was like a musical note.
Perfectly.
It was perfect mechanics, and every shot you could hear that perfect sound. There was no slough.
Absolutely nailing the sweet spot.
That's mechanics.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a measure that I think a lot of people overlook, right? It's like they want to see the shot go where they want it to, but even more in general, they want to win the point. But if you really want to judge your mechanics, especially on drives and drops and really every component of the game, hearing that sound, understanding your paddle, and knowing what that note is and hitting that sound, your mechanics are on the right track when you're doing that.
And I can tell you where some of that comes from.
Tell me.
When you hit a ball, most of us know the teaching. You make contact with the ball out in front of you, which is fractionally out in front of us. But there is a period of time, a distance sometimes said to be the length of 3 pickleballs, but that's immaterial. It depends on the thickness of the core will determine that. But there's a point where the ball stays on the paddle. And if the paddle face is moving in exactly the direction you want that ball to go, you're going to get that sound. If you come across the ball, let's say you're doing a backhand and your shoulders are turning and you hit the ball and you hit it and it goes there, but you didn't go through the ball, you didn't have resonance, then you don't get the sound.
Absolutely.
It's those who know that the paddle has to move in the direction you want the ball to go. Once it's gone, then you can stop, or you can let the elbow fold on a forehand.
Absolutely.
The elbow folds. That it's designed to do that. What you're trying to avoid on the backhand is having the elbow go to full extension. It's that bounce that causes tennis elbow, the inflammation of the joint. So, if you just learn the mechanics and go through the ball.
And a big part of that, to do that consistently, is definitely footwork. I mean, you get a different ball every time you're receiving one.
That's right.
And being in the right position means you're not overextending, you're not getting jammed up.
That's right.
You're able to more consistently position yourself, position where you want the shot to go, and hit that straight and hit that sweet spot.
That teaching of, number one, it's chase the ball, get your footwork, and now get a teacher to show you the various ways to get to the ball.
Absolutely.
Because our job, and I use this simplistically, but our job is to intercept the flight of the ball. We see the ball coming off the face, and that's a skill everybody should try to develop. You should see the ball coming off the face of your opponent. Actually see it.
And be able to read it.
And then you move to intercept the ball, and then you get your body in position. First is intercept it with the paddle face while you're getting your body in position. That'll save you hundredths of a second.
Absolutely.
But in our game,
that's everything.
That matters.
That's everything. And it sounds easy, right? It's easier said than done. But at the end of the day, that's something that the best way to accomplish that, the best way to deeply root it so you're not eliminating bad habits in the future, is to get a great instructor.
Yeah.
To get somebody who really understands the game, really understands the footwork required.
Who's been there.
Who has tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of reps.
Yeah.
And that person usually comes from tennis.
And in this world, yeah.
This world, yeah. And it's honestly really incredible to see the amount of tennis players coming into the sport.
Sure.
I read a stat
Especially
on
the young ones.
The tens of years of age drop in this sport, and in terms of how young players are coming into it. Because obviously it's just newly popular, and not many people train pickleball as their first sport from the start. But now you're seeing that more and more, and now you are seeing so many tennis players converting over to pickleball.
Well, the demographics now, and this I was told this week by somebody who's in the know, so to speak, is that the number one group is the 18 to 35-year-olds now.
Really?
Yeah, that's their number one demographic. In the past, of course, it was old coots like me from Bainbridge Island and all of that, but it's a young game now.
And that's what pushes the sport. I mean,
exactly.
It's incredible. So that's really great to see, and I know you got young bucks now training pickleball from the start. You got high schools getting more involved.
Colleges have now teams.
Colleges have teams.
They had nationals last year.
We actually sponsor a few clubs like UF, Florida State, University of Miami, and to see the size of the clubs was incredible. I mean, University of Florida has 750 members.
Really?
Their club has 750 members.
What does Miami have?
They're newer. They started with 50. They just launched this past year, and then Florida State has around 250 to 300 members.
Well, I have no interest in Florida State or Gators. I'm a Hurricane. So
you're a Hurricane, so you heard it here first. That's why the question came out first. Is the only one he was concerned about. Why do you support the Hurricanes?
I have 2 degrees from there.
Okay, that checks out. That's awesome.
This goes way back. This is many decades ago.
This is OG. How was it back then? How'd you like the environment overall?
It was a spectacular school. It's a very good quality. Football-wise, we were fodder for slaughter while I was there.
Really?
Yeah, and then that had a nice run.
And then that dies down, and that comes back. It's cool. It's cool to see the legacies and the different dynasties.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I taught at Florida State. I taught at University of Florida. I've taught at a lot of schools.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you teach?
Most of you have no idea. There's a thing called Evelyn Wood Reading Dynamics, and in its day, it's a reading and learning skills program, speed reading, etc. And I took it during my master's, and I taught it for probably 25 years. and I was the national director. I ended up.
That's incredible.
So I was the teacher.
That's incredible.
I know that stuff.
Oh, he knows that stuff.
Don't get me started.
What is your favorite lesson? Just one thing, your favorite lesson or your favorite part of your curriculum that you teach.
The most important thing is you need to understand reading is thinking. Words should generate thought. So the words you see should have you generating thought. You should be very active in your mind. Most people simply read words one at a time through sound. But if you can get to the point where you can see the words and begin to think about what you're seeing, and you see every single word, there's no skipper, none of that skipping
Absolutely.
stuff, then you become a more effective reader. The speeds are, it's like a encephalogram. The speeds vary like crazy. It's not like I mean, I can read anywhere from 1,800 to 3,000 words a minute. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, when I want to.
So, because you tie that into really thinking, and thinking takes time, especially when you're addressing every word. So what is the relationship between that and speed reading? How are you able to really accomplish that while still speed reading at a higher rate?
Because you think at speeds of 80 to 120,000 words a minute.
And that's just reps. Is that the best way, right? Continue reading.
That's what the manager clinic, 80 to 120,000 words a minute. But thinking is not always sound. You perceive. You see it to be so. When you see a stop sign, do you say stop or do you see it?
You see it.
Right.
And
so
you act.
Now,
it's
if
almost
there are words,
muscle memory.
Yeah, I mean, if there are words you don't know, you can't do that. You have to stop and deal with it. It's not like you can just slide on
and
by.
skip over them.
Yeah.
Understand the word. Back in the day, that might have been a dictionary, but now we have it so fucking amazing. I mean, you have Google,
Exactly.
you have AI, and I think doing that over time and really never going past a word until you learn it and understand it is how that all translates. That builds.
If you're acting out like a speed reader, it's silly. If you're not understanding it totally, then it's stupid.
Absolutely. It's literally at that point pointless.
Yes.
It's pointless. You're reading a book to make yourself feel better. There's a goal, and the goal with reading is always to learn.
Well, no, not necessarily. Sometimes it's to pass time. Sometimes it's to have an interesting historical novel, just movies going on in your head, that kind of thing.
That's true.
So
That's true.
You're not always looking for information, but you're usually going to have an experience. And that's a great
way to put it.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. So yeah, and the clubs, just to dive back into that, I mean, almost all, like USF for example, almost all of these new clubs, through their launch, they all start at around 200 to 250 members.
That's fun.
So that shows
so
you
happy
from
to
high
hear
school and college. That shows you that shows you the growth of the sport,
yep.
and that shows you the trajectory increase that's
exactly.
happening. So
exactly.
That's
I can't
awesome.
wait to see the future.
Yeah. So I guess to dive a little bit deeper here, what do you love about pickleball? Like, what is it that keeps you deeply invested in pickleball? And that's probably multiple things.
There are. Among other things, there's a place for everybody. I mentioned I'm 82. I'm looking at people 85, 89, 94 who are out there playing. They don't always move as well, but they can play. There's so many different. Most of us play recreationally. Very few play competitively. But you and I are now sitting in the midst of a major competitive event where people had to qualify to get here.
Absolutely.
The gold medalists get the gold ticket to go to next year's nationals. There's a whole layering of that.
There's a process.
And
We're at the USAP event, by the way, here at Pictona.
Right. And then the exercise that we get, we all know that we should be eating correctly, relatively, and then getting exercise. Well, this is phenomenal. I used to think that skating, because I grew up.
Rollerblading or ice skating?
More roller.
Okay.
I was indoor, outdoor.
Very cool.
My wife and I competed. I owned a roller rink for 16 and a half years.
No shit.
Yeah.
Where was this? Was in Florida?
No, this was in the Chicago area.
Okay. Nice.
But I did it for exercise, and
Yeah.
I ended up in my day, 60s. Let's see. No, I don't see. I was born in 42. So in the 50s and 60s, roller skating was the social network.
Interesting.
Right now, in my view, it's pickleball.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are, but you look at tennis or golf or the baseball. They're all great sports. Football. they bring people together, they play the game. That's great. But look at the number of people that are playing this game. For instance, I heard, now this is hearsay, and I'm going to make up numbers, but they will approximate what I heard.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, let's see, 2010 to now, right? Baseball had 21 million people playing it. There are now 24 to 25 million.
Very little growth.
Some growth, but
Yeah.
it hasn't lost.
Yeah.
Tennis, same thing. Essentially the same numbers. Golf, same thing.
In terms of like proportion.
Yeah,
And percentage.
close enough that
Yeah.
I don't need to make up other
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
Pickleball back then was maybe 4 million people. There are now 49 million
That's
of
I heard.
us.
I heard around 50 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the expansion, and you know, you look at a pickleball court, anybody can cover that ground.
Anybody.
And it's not hard to learn. It's hard to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So you need help with
The
that.
great
problem.
players make it look very easy.
Oh, no kidding.
People are like,
It's
oh,
gorgeous.
I can do that.
The
but
simplicity.
simplicity, just following the strategy of the game. It's just everything is with ease and damn near perfect.
Yeah, but that's what you
consistency.
guys can do. You know, you guys at
Could.
Addict,
Big emphasis on could. Could do.
you can do.
We can
I've
do.
watched you play.
He's being very flattering right now, and it's a bit of an
Well, there's
exaggeration, but hopefully we'll get there.
Listen to the self-deprecation here. No, I've watched you guys play, and you can play, seriously play. But what I love about it is that all of us can play.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to get out there and dink around. And then for those of us who enjoy improving, the science of improvement, not achievement, just learning, I want to do a backhand, help me with a backhand,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Then there's a joy in learning.
Absolutely.
You know,
Seeing those different shots develop.
I think it's Maslow's hierarchy of learning, okay? What is the number one state, what is the state of mind of pure learning? Do you know what that is?
Self-actualization.
No.
At the top of the hierarchy.
No.
The
We won't
state of
waste-
mind. Is it
What is the state of consciousness?
enjoyment?
No.
What is it? Tell me.
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy. Oh my God, that
when
was
we
fucking
learn,
beautiful.
isn't it? And so when we're learning something new, there's a hit. It's given the name, but there's a buzz, a joy. And so we tend to recreate that joy.
To chase that ecstasy.
It's called recreation. That's what recreation is all about.
Interesting.
So finding those things, it doesn't matter what the sport is
Yeah.
or the activity. It can be, well, quilting, I don't know. Well, that came to mind, is complete extreme. But something causes most of us to seek out those moments when learning takes place.
That's beautiful.
Pickleball is phenomenal.
That's beautiful. It's beyond phenomenal. For me, I'll dive into a little bit of the early phases of my pickleball, which was very recently. I really started playing November of 22.
Okay.
And one of the most inspiring people that I saw is a guy named Buddy. Julian B. Lane is the name of the park. Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park in Tampa, where I currently live,
Okay.
in the downtown area. His name is Buddy, and he's an amputee, and he
Okay,
plays
yeah.
with a prosthetic leg.
Right.
And he is a fucking incredible player.
Yeah.
He's an incredible player. He's known for newer players, whether they be new to the park or new to the game, you see him, you're playing a doubles match pickup, and in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I'm going to have to take it easy on this guy. And you go and
Big
you go
mistake.
and you get pickled.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
He has probably the number one pickles at JVL. So
Well, you just remember using the word pickle, which means you got 11-0.
which means you didn't score a point
Yeah, right. You
in
didn't
terms
get
of
it.
defeat. Skunked,
But-
if you will.
There are two things come to mind. I played recently with a very good player. We lost to two people. Should never have happened. But the game doesn't always come to you. You know, the points, it doesn't always work out.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I try to communicate to everybody is stop playing games. At the end of the day, you won't remember who you played against. You won't remember the scores, none of it. If you learn to play points, each point. Now the game points add up and they have a tendency and there's an ending and all that stuff.
But breaking it down with a more micro focus.
Every point is a learning opportunity. And, you hit a shot and it goes into the net and you say, okay, I hit it flush. I didn't get under the ball. Okay. And then you hit a hero shot and you kind of glow. And
really hit that
one
ecstasy.
one more point. And you have a day full of these points, and there are so many moments of smiles and, oh, shit.
I love that. Instead of hitting that overly higher view of just how many games did you win, but really valuing the points. Almost the way you talked about reading and analyzing the words. It's like after that point, really understand what really went right, why it went right, or if it went wrong, why it went wrong.
Yeah.
And learn from it.
And that's the joy.
Yeah.
For those of us who enjoy learning those lots of tiny moments,
that add up.
That's what it's all about.
That's beautiful. I love that take. Now, you might not know this. I don't know if I ever told you, but when I started playing, a friend had invited me to a park, and I went to Dick's Sporting Goods. I got I wouldn't even want to call it a beginner paddle. I got my little piece of plywood. It was like a Monarch Dragon Slayer, I think it was called. You've seen them. And then the very next day, I ordered my first paddle, and it was an Engage. That was my very first introduction with a legitimate paddle to pickleball.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it for months, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience. So shout out Engage there for really getting me into pickleball.
Super.
Yeah.
Super.
And it's been cool. I've tested many paddles in between. I mean, just out of curiosity, really understanding what the different paddles do and kind of diving into it. And then in developing a paddle, it was a 5-month process for us. And for me, it was the first time I really got to dive in and nerd out about something in a very long time. And it's been an awesome process.
Quite a journey.
Quite a journey. Developing products is a cool thing. I mean, it's a newer thing to me. I mean, I've been a part of multiple ventures. If you told me last year that I'd be sitting here playing pickleball every day, hitting a plastic ball with holes in it with a flat paddle, I would have said, get the fuck out of here. Right. So it's been awesome. I've enjoyed pickleball for so many different reasons. The main one is the community of people.
Yes.
The diversity, the demographic, the inclusivity, like people just really inviting you in, taking you in. It's the best. I come from basketball. That was my sport. And basketball is a very heavy pickup culture, right? You go to a park, whatever. You end up arguing more than you end up playing most of the time, depending where you're at. For pickleball, I mean, it was people inviting me, people giving me tips, people right off of the bat. And I mean, I had moved back from Miami off of a very unhealthy year, moved back to Tampa, and I needed pickleball. I didn't know I needed pickleball, but I needed something. And I found pickleball, and within the first week, then the second week, the third week, I'm playing 5-6 hours a day. My new set of friends were only people that I met in pickleball or the friends of friends that I met playing pickleball. And it's put me in touch with the highest quality of people that I've ever associated with my entire life.
One of the things that comes to mind as you're saying that, it is the most common thing in the world for somebody to show up who can't play, but they have a paddle in their hand, to be invited onto the court. But I do want to address that one thing about elitism. The people who can play, tournament players, can't play down more than a game or so because it affects their game.
Of course, definitely.
So if any of you are listening and you're new to the game, be aware that sometimes people will invite you in, but they can't play with you very long.
And because it's not really them insulting you.
It's not an elitism. It's just they can't because they're competitive players.
Absolutely.
But on the whole, that's a very small percentage of the people who play the game.
For sure.
So
most is right.
It's a most welcoming group of people. Everybody's laughing. If you're not laughing, you may not be welcome.
yeah, exactly. Then you're not welcome.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, that's a small group of people, and they're really diving into pursuing pro, or they are pro, and other than that, I mean, it's incredible. And for me, pickleball gave me that, coming off of an healthy year, and really through the amazing people, through the laughter, through that sense of camaraderie, that sense of, depending what sport you came from, that drive, that ability to compete, that everybody loses after college if you're not, pursuing, or even after high school. So getting that back for the first time in years was incredible. Every other aspect of my life fell into place in the most healthy way possible. The weight that I lost, I mean, I lost, I think, 20 pounds in the first 3 weeks playing, and that was amazing.
Oh, you had a good time.
I had a good time. I'm in the sun. I'm glowing after even 2 weeks of playing, especially here in Florida. I mean, look at this. I'm sweating and I'm under a cover right now. So
Right, yeah.
I'm glowing. And a funny thing is, 2 months into pickleball, I'm gone for 6-7 hours a day, and everybody from family to friends are like, what are you fucking doing lately? And I didn't want to own up to it just because of the name pickleball. So
Sure.
I would tell everybody that I'm doing a lot of cardio. That's what I would tell everybody. I would tell everybody I'm doing a lot of cardio. I'm doing a lot of cardio. People start asking me more questions like, what kind of I'm just doing a lot of cardio, change the subject. and then 3 months into it, meeting all these amazing people, starting Addict Pickleball, I'm just like, I'm playing fucking pickleball.
Yeah.
So to see that transition it was really funny. It was awesome. And I'm just really happy to be here. I'm grateful for all the amazing people that I've met. I'm grateful for this sport. I'm grateful for all of that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Let's see what I got here for you. What are you looking to bring to the sport of pickleball? I know we touched on some of these things, but what are you looking to bring to the sport of pickleball, and how do you think it can be done? What do you think can I know you touched on teaching, but what is the biggest maybe effect that you want to have on pickleball?
It'll be teaching.
Teaching.
Yeah, just giving people the fundamentals, sharing the joy of their beginnings.
Absolutely.
Being out there playing. I can be very annoying out there.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get on the court with
But
you.
You know what the IPS is, right?
The rating system?
No. Use your imagination. Lee Trevino, playing golf,
Okay.
would kid around with everybody until the moment came when he put his eyes on the ball. And then the universe closed, and he was Lee Trevino. Tiger Woods can't do that. He doesn't do that.
He has
Jack
to be
Nicklaus will.
dialed all the time.
All of us have our own IPS, which is the ideal or internal performance state.
That's awesome.
And one of the things I highly recommend that everybody starts to acknowledge, do you have that personality where you can just banter and have a good time and then close in on the points and play them out? I'm one of those.
I'm one of those too.
Yeah, so I can be really annoying.
My partner Nick is not. Sometimes there he is right there. Sometimes he is, but
Yeah.
sometimes he's not. I'm like, listen, you're just getting yourself angry. You're too dialed in. You play better when you acknowledge your actual IPS.
Yeah, and so
Now tell us, what does it stand for again?
Ideal or internal
Or internal
performance state.
performance state.
So the IPS, it encourages the personality to come out.
Yeah,
But if your
even
personality is not expressive, then
being dialed in is
internalize.
your IPS.
just don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think most players are? Because I agree that does bring out your
Personality.
personality, and it translates into your game.
Yeah.
Even if
The
it's
right-
more playful and innovative and a little unorthodox sometimes.
Yeah, I think most of us are enjoying and laughing and feel free to express ourselves.
And that's what I
There
see
are,
too.
if I were playing in this competition,
Yeah.
you wouldn't see that side. There'd be moments, but I wouldn't want to intrude on everybody's IPS because
So
they're not
you-
that good.
So your IPS would be more dialed in, is what you're saying in that state?
It would be because I understand. I'm playing in relationship to everybody else.
And respecting their own IPS.
Of course. So why intrude on it? But why not express your own personality?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Well,
so-
and kind of like you mentioned, and maybe adjusting to who you're playing with, obviously.
Exactly.
If you have other players with the IPS that's more personality, a little bit more expressive, a little bit more talking, and that's yours, then you match it.
Yeah.
But maybe if everyone's really dialed in and focused, you dial it down to respect that match.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's cool. I've never heard of that term. But it's the perfect way to describe that.
And it helps if somebody is dialed in, to use your phrase, and they're internally being very serious, then I give them space to do that.
Yeah.
But, if you have a hero shot.
Are you a shit talker, Dan?
Am I a what?
When you're a shit talker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, if you have a shot that I can't even get to, I'll just glare at you. So you're doing that to me?
Yeah.
What did I do to you?
I love that.
So
that's awesome.
it's all fun.
Yeah.
And at home, everybody knows you pay no attention to anything I say.
Yeah.
None.
Just out in one ear and then out the other.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Who's the Don Rickles? And I never did enjoy him, but I'm more like him now than I've ever been.
Okay. Well, tell me, who is Don Rickles?
A comedian who was insulting everybody.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah. And everybody laughed their heads off because they knew it was a joke.
Yeah, of course.
So
Understanding that.
There's room for every kind of personality.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing within that is just being authentic. Being genuine, being authentic, and letting your real and actual personality bleed through the game, bleed through all of your interactions.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and that applies to everything in life, obviously, not just pickleball, not just this scene or environment, but I think being authentic is one of the best things you can do for yourself and for the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you look at the environments where the most amount of people are being authentic, and those are the most fun environments.
And you want to come back to it.
And you want to come back to it. It's a hook.
Yep.
Now, I have a question for you. Are you addicted to pickleball? Are you an addict?
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
It's my joy now.
I love
It's
that.
it's
your favorite thing to do?
Yeah, except for being with my wife, and I'm not kidding.
Oh, shout out the wife.
Yeah,
she's an amazing woman.
Yeah, she is. She can't hear this, so I'm safe.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it low key.
Set that aside, because I'm blessed in that way. My life revolves around pickleball.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I work at it. I work at Engage 3 days a week. I play 3 days a week. We have our church day, of course, and
it all falls in.
It used to be skating.
It
used to be tennis. It used to be.
So you did play tennis?
Recreationally.
Yeah. Well, did you pick it up like later in life or from a pretty early age?
Early.
I'm so jealous of you, Dan. God damn it. God damn it. God damn it. That's my new line with you. God damn it. That's awesome. Yeah. I unfortunately had a little bit of a mediocre taste in sports, because if I could do it backwards, I would have definitely played more tennis. For me, I had never even watched it on TV. I just thought tennis was lame. I was judgmental when I was very young and put it in this little basket over there.
It was distantly in my family.
Okay.
Distant. My father played in college, and so I knew of it.
Okay.
So it fit. It's like music. Yeah. Music fit because he was a master trombonist and I played music. And
that's
I
awesome.
have 2 college degrees because I played in a band at the University of Miami.
No shit. That's awesome.
It didn't cost me a nickel.
Because of the band.
Because of that.
You got a scholarship through it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, music is beautiful.
Isn't it?
And I think music is one of those universal languages. Playing an instrument is amazing talent. Doing things that get you into a state of flow, I think, is some of the best things you can do in life.
It's a wonderful way to put it.
Yeah, like whether that be an instrument for you, whether that even be reading, whether that be some kind of even mild activity that just gets you into this state where you're not thinking of other things, you're just flowing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And as of late, pickleball does that for me, especially when I'm drilling, which is new to me.
Yeah.
And I think one of the hardest things, especially in Tampa, is, and this is Nick and I, he's my drilling partner. I mean, we go to try to drill, and then somebody by you is playing a game, and then it's like, do you want to play a game? And then it's like 5 minutes into drilling, it's like, yeah, we'll play a fucking game. And then
I heard an interesting thing. This is all hearsay. Ben Johns was being interviewed. Ben Johns, for those who don't know, is the #1 male player in the world. Last I heard, he was 24, probably 25 now, doing really, really well.
An absolutely incredible player.
He was on a panel. My image of what I heard was he was on a panel on a stage, people asking questions, and somebody said to all of the panelists, what % of the time do you practice and what % do you play? Ben, practice, 100%. He doesn't play. He only practices.
When he competes, he only plays.
Yeah. Playing is his competition. Well, it's an interesting insight. Now, for him, because he's making his living and his future is getting secured through pickleball. All he does is practices with his brother, probably Colin.
Yeah, with Colin. Which I heard Colin is really a big brain behind that pickleball team. I heard he really is strategic. I heard he even creates proper scouting reports, dives into players and their tendencies. And I think studying the game from that angle, especially at the highest level, is one of the best things you can do.
So the lesson there is, if you want to be that good,
you got to drill.
You have to drill.
You got to train, just
That's
like anything. It's doing the actual activity. Sometimes you're doing the same mistakes over and over again. And think about the reps you get. Like, think about how many backhand dinks you maybe get, or backhand drops you get, isolating that for an hour or 2 hours versus doing it in the game when you have a bunch of other shots being in play.
Skating, we used to say, you should be practicing 4 hours for every hour that you compete or relax. 4 hours of practice for every hour of pleasure.
Wow. 4 times the amount.
Just another way to say the same thing.
4 times the amount. That's amazing.
Now, most of us are 85% of us who play the game are intermediate recreational players.
Absolutely.
Practice is not that important. So what?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah. I mean, if you're enjoying what you're doing and you don't want to make time to drill, don't drill if you're happy where you're at. Don't drill. If you really don't want to get better and you're doing it recreational, you don't necessarily need to drill. But if you really do want to get better and you want to get better faster, you have to drill.
There's no question. No doubt.
Now, here's an interesting thing. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the U.S. right now by a significant margin.
3 years running, officially, the fastest growing sport.
For 3 years, really? Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that part. And then padel is the fastest growing sport in the world as of right now.
I don't even know what that is.
And you don't know padel? Have you seen a video of padel? So padel is kind of played on a similar, almost in between a pickleball court and a tennis court, and it's the one with the glass walls all on the side. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it.
I'm gonna have to show you that. Okay. You have to take a look because it's by a very far margin the fastest growing sport in the world. Pickleball also being the second fastest growing sport worldwide. I think Asia being a very big market for sure. I think Europe is starting to play it more and more. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing between padel and pickleball, and it'll show what will happen in the long run. Look how easy it is to build a pickleball court. Yep. Look how many you can fit 4 pickleball courts pretty comfortably in one tennis court.
Yes.
So you look at that, and padel has glass walls. It's a larger court. It's oftentimes, I think, best to play indoors.
You would think.
And you look at that and you compare the two. I mean, I see pickleball worldwide growing so fast as soon as places get into it. I mean, take places like India, take places like Asia, even China, different, Southeast Asia, Pakistan, all of them. They play cricket, they play padel also, but I mean, padel is a more difficult sport to play. It's a more difficult strategy. It's a larger court to cover. It's not going to have the same demographic. Right. I mean, older people are not going to want to move like the way that they do. And I see pickleball growing so much faster than padel in the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And an interesting thing that somebody, and David Tabb, awesome, All Florida Pickleball, is best tournament director in the world, in my opinion. And that's just getting more opportunities to translate it. But we were having interesting talk on USAP, actually, and what they do for the sport. They just recently formed a global commission for pickleball as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be great to push the sport internationally. But to maybe make a little bet or to see how long it takes for pickleball to become an Olympic sport.
I was just thinking the same thing, sure. I think we're seeing it.
Yeah.
Among their requirements are 30 countries have to participate. Engage sends paddles to 30 countries internationally now.
No shit. Yeah. That is awesome.
And that's climbing. So it in my view, such as it is, the Olympics are definitely in our future.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether that be 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be, without a doubt, pickleball will become an Olympic sport. And to all the haters, then they can't say pickleball is not a sport. They probably will still say it, but then, I mean,
wait till you try.
Yeah, wait till you try it. I think that's the best part. The best part is seeing a lot of these tennis converts kind of giving it shit, and then you see them try pickleball. A couple months go by, and that's all they play. Yeah. They don't even play tennis anymore.
And look at what McEnroe and the Agassiz and all of them are, and Tom Brady's and all of the people who are owning
buying
teams.
teams.
It's just, it's exploding. It's spreading like crazy.
Absolutely. Now, with familiarity with the leagues and the different formats and the different organizations, what format do you like between maybe the MLP and the PPA? I know there's all the drama between them merging and then potentially not and all this, but from the actual format, do you like the MLP format more than traditional? No.
No, and I don't dislike it, but it hasn't captured my attention.
Okay, why is that?
Because I like to go out and play with people.
Okay.
I'm not. The team concept is going to take universities, high schools, professional teams. That's not me.
Okay.
I think most of us are going to stay with. We may be interested. Like I'm interested in
watching
some of the football. I have a favorite team, Miami Hurricanes, obviously.
For sure.
I came from
the
Chicago.
Dolphins, maybe the Dolphins.
But I'm not playing. I'm watching.
Yeah.
Playing is what we do.
Absolutely.
Out there was 2 or 3 people, doubles or singles, having
or
a ball.
both.
Just
Yeah.
having a ball.
Absolutely. Interesting. And I agree. I think MLP has an amazing format. I have yet to go to an MLP event. I've been to probably 3 or 4 PPA events now. I do want to see one, but I think both are important. I think it's important to have both. I mean, the team dynamic is totally different than just being able to look at, within the PPA, a team that you love, whether it be J-Dub and Dylan Frazier, and just really follow and support, just those 2 players in doubles. So that's really cool. Yeah. Let's flip this a little bit. Do you have any questions for me?
No.
None.
No.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the moment. I really am.
This is awesome. This is a great conversation. Dan, you have a very, like a lot of people, but you have a very, very unique perspective from looking at what you've done, teaching I didn't even know about, being a professor, that's incredible, and now translating a wealth of knowledge into pickleball from a technical end, from just a social end, from a maybe even spiritual end. I mean, these all tie together, and hearing this perspective is awesome and has been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have one more topic I want to dive into. Understanding, going back to the paddle a little bit more, kind of maybe what innovations you see happening within the paddle. What are some of the best things that people can do with the paddle? What do you think?
Well, my knowledge is limited to what I experienced through Engage. I mean, I'm dealing with a guy with, as I mentioned before, 2 engineering degrees, physics and chemistry. The guy, he's absolutely brilliant. So when I compare the quality of play off of those paddles to others, I just don't think that there's a comparison. This is high-end stuff. What I do like is that everybody's now experimenting and getting better and better and better. So we have thin paddles for speed. We have thicker paddles for control. I have no idea because I may be smart about some things, but smart just means you know a lot. It has nothing to do with intelligence. And I have no psychic abilities whatsoever. So I don't know that I can respond intelligently because I don't know where things are going to go.
Okay.
I know they're moving toward quiet. They're moving, and I don't know what that's going to do to the playability of the sport. But
I don't like that. I think that dopamine rush and that extra ecstasy you get is the sound of the ball.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Right, like the sound of the ball, the sound of kind of like Jesse Irvin does.
Well, even in baseball, the sound of a ball coming
Ding.
off you can hear that note. You know it's a homer.
That's what makes it musical.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I mean, we'll see what happens. I know there's certain scenarios, whether it's very close to residential, whether it be a private court or a facility, people might prefer something a little bit more quiet. But really, for me, I hope, and I don't think the majority of competition will head that way. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I don't have that background to be able to respond beyond what I just said.
Yeah, totally valid. Well, Dan, you know the deal. We got Dan, This has been absolutely incredible. You said it.
For me also.
I've been just absolutely enjoying the moment. And thank you for coming on. Let me give you a proper handshake. This has been great.
It has been my pleasure, I assure you.
Thank you. You know the deal. Take care, y'all. Thanks for listening. That was awesome.
I'm getting the signal.
Keep it rolling. They're asking for an encore. I can hear it already.